That was the opening to Ghostbusters. Just a little snippet, but it gives you an idea on what to expect. What was so cool about this movie is that it combined comedy and actual horror, and it did it very well. I mean, there aren't many movies that have this particular ability, and yet this movie did very well. This is the next film on the 13 Days of Halloween. Remember, it's ghosts, so it works. Hauntings and so forth. What made this movie good? Not only did you have these scary moments, you had this straight level comedy. And remember who's in this movie? Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, the late Harold Ramis. Sorry, man. Wish you were still here. Ernie Hudson, Sigourney Weaver, Rick Moranis. Forget her full name, Annie Potts, the lady who plays Eugene. And of course, Dickhead himself. This man has no dick. Yep. I can't pronounce the actor's name to save my life right now, but you had an eclectic cast here that was just so well done. Many of them are comedy geniuses. And the cool part is, this movie is played so straight. These characters really believe they are who they say they are, which is what makes it work so damn well. And I must say, it really does work. That is what makes Ghostbusters so good. So much so that even still to this day, the original movies are still getting an amazing amount of love. I mean, look at this. I am in full costume here. And check this out. I figured I might as well show you. But I even went to Party City, well, actually, Spirit, to pick up an actual proton pack. Well, that wasn't intended, but can't beat it. The detail work, by the way, in this is actually very good. They even have the traps and the night vision goggles that are connected to the I forget what it's called. Oh my god, I can't believe it. And I just played the game too, the remastered game. But you know what? It was so worth it. And it is. So, and it's just gonna fall down here. There, it's safe. All right, let's take a look at the movie as well. You can see a little bit of it behind me. And check it out. I have right now this edition right here. I am trying to get the 4K copy, but right now this is good enough. And check this out. Mastered in 4K. So the movie has already been pretty much mastered to its maximum quality. And Blu-ray is still damn good. And I have both Ghostbusters 1 and 2. And I'll probably review 2 during Christmas. Just saying, maybe. Either way, I do like the fact that this does come with a little booklet, information. Look at that. Look at that. That is cool. I don't care what anybody says. And check this out. Oh, oops. That is pretty cool. There was a lot of work that went into this movie. And I mean a lot. First of all, you start the movie with the library scene. Then you introduce the 3 primary original Ghostbusters. You have Dr. Peter Venkman, a psychiatrist. He is, people are like, he's a fraud. He admits, I am a fraud. But he is also a trained psychiatrist. That right there is nothing to take lightly. And he does ask some pretty weird questions, but they're done in a way that will tell you if the person is really nuts or if they've seen something. You have Egon, who I believe is probably some kind of nuclear engineer, physicist, and so forth. Ray is definitely a technical guy as well. These are the people who build the gear and so forth. So they're all 3 scientists. When Ernie Hudson joins the cast, he's the everyday guy. And I love how he's like, just steady paycheck, I'll believe anything you say. Totally worth it. And, Eugene, she's the secretary. She's the person that everybody calls. It makes total sense. And, they get thrown out of the college after this encounter that gets them the information they need to catch ghosts. Then they decide to go into business for themselves. So not only do you have this origin story of them starting a business, the hilarity that comes with that, but also then the story of Dana Barrett coming in, played by Sigourney Weaver. And she plays this movie so straight, it's perfect. And this is the thing. Even people who aren't traditionally these comedians they're playing the role so well. And we've seen Sigourney Weaver do some pretty good comedic roles. For example, Galaxy Quest and Paul. What can I say? Those are great movies. Sorry, cold. Yeah, we did get it too. Live with it. You know. Anyways, she goes into her apartment and she's accosted by something called Zool. She goes to the Ghostbusters and they begin to research into what is going on, which leads them to the fact that something is very wrong with her apartment building. Well, at the same time, after they catch their first ghost, all hell is breaking loose. They are just inundated. When you see this one next scene to them, they're literally smoking cigarettes. They're like, oh God. I mean, things that would scare you and me is like nothing to them. I mean, they have literally become that desensitized to these ghosts to a degree, except in certain little elements. It makes the film so good. And as they begin to learn things, it's clear that a great deal of problems are about to occur. And then Zool and this Keymaster, they strike, and we learn it's Gozer, this Gozer of these Gozerians from Samaria. There's great funny moments that can only just be played by these actors as the tension grows. Then you have a human villain come in with Mr. Peck, Walter Peck, who's like, I'm going to shut you down. I don't like you. And he is a total asshole. He doesn't realize just how important these guys really are to the film or to New York at the time. And the film continues to build and build and build. We see a lot that happens. The soundtrack is great too, by the way. In fact, I may even do something with the soundtrack because I have both a CD and a vinyl, and I may actually show it off. Now, I wish I had an original vinyl because they looked very different from the one that they release now. But my God, does this film just radiate action, power? It still has its moments where it's scary. I mean, really scary. But after that sequence, I really don't want to show too much more. Not because I think the film is bad, but mostly because I want you to watch the film, the sequel, the animated series that was released, play the Ghostbusters video game, and you know what? Even watch the 2016 one with the all-female cast. I'm going to say this now. I did not hate that movie. I did not. It was its own unique thing. I understand why a lot of people totally hated it, but much like the original film, it was at least done with an actual comedic cast. These people were actually pretty good, and the film wasn't a total terrible thing. It did its own thing. But I do agree, they showed too much in those trailers. This film has a trailer that you can get on this copy, which is very good. Plus, you should also check out on YouTube here or somewhere else the Ray Parker Jr. music video, because that is great. And it had so many co-stars, cameos, even who was it? I think John Candy. So many actors and actresses that came in. However, there are a couple of things I do want to point out in a few things. Number one, I learned some time ago when I was watching one of the Celebrity Ghost Stories that Dan Aykroyd was living in a haunted house when he wrote the script. Now remember, him and Harold Ramis, they wrote these scripts. Now, Dan Aykroyd's a little bit of a weird dude, but you know what? He does make some point. There's actual science behind Ghostbusters, much like how Star Trek had actual warp theorem behind the warp drive. So there is something there, and he makes a good point about some stuff. And that actually goes in. There are actual names, and they're actually scientific terms, even down to molecular level. That's intense. And the fact that he lived in a haunted house, my God, man, that's pretty cool. And a lot of people have. I have had my own experiences when I was still living. I don't condone anybody scaring anybody, but hey, shit's gonna happen. This movie does it very good. It's still very much a kid's movie, yet at the same time, it's very much an adult's movie. And there are certain jokes that kids will be like, huh? But the parents will be like, oh God. It's just perfect that way. That's what makes Ghostbusters such a good movie. Such a damn good movie. And the film is aged very well. The visual effects that were put into it look good. They look great, still to this day. Yes, a few things have aged. Yes, the quality is bad in some areas, but the audio is great. The film is great. I mean, you have to put up with the film stock itself. I mean, unless they really go in for a super master remaster thing. But otherwise, I highly recommend this. I highly recommend this. And I highly recommend it to you as well. So, have fun, guys. Watch the movie. And I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. Yes, 9 out of 10. That's how much I like Ghostbusters 1. And I highly recommend it. And I also want to point out one other. This is just a little fun fact for myself. I actually saw this movie when I was a kid, when I was still breathing, of course, in the drive-thru with my mom. Let that sink in. Drive-thru with your car. That was great. The other thing is that year, the movie, if you were an HBO person, was put on HBO as a Christmas gift. My mom terminated the Terminator to get her hands on Ghostbusters. Of course, when we went looking for Terminator, we then realized, like, oh no, Mom, tell me you didn't terminate the Terminator. And she's like, I terminated the Terminator. But we got the Terminator back. We kept Ghostbusters, and it took nearly a decade for that movie and its cassette tape, which, by the way, had the Ghostbusters, The Secret of the, the Jewel of the Nile and stuff, and a couple of other movies before it died out. But by that point, DVD was starting to come around, and then some years later, Blu-ray. So it wasn't a total loss. And we had a pretty good collection of movies. Thank you, HBO and cable at that time, by the way. So I highly recommend it. I highly recommend it. This is a good movie to watch any time of the year. But during Halloween, these good scary movies and even these comedy ones, definitely check it out, guys. Check it out and have fun. And I highly recommend it. I might do some more of the videos. You might see Mr. Reaper again. Who knows? Either way, have fun. And remember, Ghostbusters, who you gonna call? Like and subscribe, guys.